there's sort of like this movement that's happening at the same time of body positivity,
Hmm.
which is great. Like, I think no one can say like body positivity is bad, but
Yeah.
some people are just not positive about their bodies, right? And it feels like pretend. Like if you're
Yeah.
like saying, like I just love how I look, you're like, well, I don't really. And so where does that leave you culturally?
Welcome back to Sunday Morning Juice. My name is Elisa. If you've never met me, my name is Elisa, and this is Nathan. Oh
Hello.
my goodness. So good to have you here. So, for those who don't know, Nathan has just had the world premiere for his directorial debut, Thinestra, at the Rain Dance Film Festival this past Friday. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I
Yes,
appreciate
so this
that.
is like a first like being in this position. How is that for you?
I mean, it's amazing, and it was amazing to see like the audience reaction at Rain Dance too. You know, we had like a packed house. This
Oh
festival is
yeah.
so cool, and lots of horror fans in the house, and it was very the reaction in the theater was excellent. Yeah,
I can
yeah,
imagine. You should have seen me in my house.
yeah. Love that.
I'm gonna get into what the film is about, but I'm a spin instructor, so immediately I was
Oh,
already hooked. Yeah.
oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so cool. That is so
I
funny.
know, I was like, am I the target audience? The Nestra is about a woman named Penny who has body dysmorphia and struggles with cycles of binge eating. One day on set, she's editing some images and the model comes up and she proposes this miracle weight loss drug to her. So she decides to take it, and the results happen instantly, but she's kind of not really remembering what happens until she does. And her flesh has left her and created an evil doppelganger who's wreaking havoc among Los Angeles. It's really a film. I need to know, how did you get aligned with this project?
So the subject matter is quite close to me, and I've been wanting to make a film like which sort of explores these issues for quite some time. And then I was sent Avra's incredible script, which I was then like working with her, and this was all around the time when like these new weight loss drugs were coming on the scene, like Ozempic and Wegovy and all these other injectable weight loss drugs. And suddenly I was like, this is the moment to really make this film. This was actually like before the substance, so I hadn't seen anything that followed like this log line before in general. And so yeah, we just decided like this is the moment we gathered our resources and we went for it.
Yeah. And I like there is a separation between that and the substance, because the substance she's like younger, but this
Right.
she's like shedding her body.
Right. We were in post when the substance got its premiere at Cannes, I believe. Yeah. And I was like, at first I was like really nervous. I was like, oh my God, like I thought this idea was like so out there. And here's this film following a similar log line. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, you know what? This is great for us. Our films are totally different. And this is actually just like this moment of body horror that we're
Yeah.
in right now, like this sort of
Right.
new awakening of
Right.
Cronenberg-esque body horror. So it's exciting.
No, it's so exciting. And it's so, I mean, I can imagine also like living in a place like LA where like what you look like matters so much. That's
Yeah.
probably also, and you grew up there,
Yeah.
so
I did.
I
Yeah.
didn't even
But
imagine.
hey, I think it's the same in New York City. I mean, I really feel like the whole country is carrying this kind of like collective shame around their bodies, and especially now people feel like, oh, I can just transform. Like maybe I'm not sort of trapped in the same way that I felt or whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think, but certainly with like Instagram, that's like
Most
been a big thing. People are mentioning like just you're inundated with like basically like bodies. And I think, yeah, I think that there's also a movement of I don't know if you agree, but there's sort of like this movement that's happening at the same time of body positivity,
definitely.
which is great. Like I think no one can say like body positivity is bad, but
Yeah.
some people are just not positive about their bodies, right? And it feels like pretend. Like if you're
Yeah.
like saying, like I just love how I look, you're like, well, I don't really. And so where does that leave you culturally, you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a film that spoke to that, like to those people. Not like maybe the substance, which is like, about like a superstar and kind of like this very extreme situation. Of course, it's an allegory, but or, like something like The Whale on the other end, which is like about also an extreme situation. So I think this was for this was for everyday people.
No, and it was. I mean, you definitely fulfilled the market in that way. I have not seen a film like this, so it was very cool to experience.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. So I've coined a little phrase. Maybe you guys call it this. I've been calling it the mental donut room. And I want to ask you a question about that.
Yes, of course.
So the first time Penny visits this mental donut room, she hears her mother's voice, and then the next two times she visits, she is in her mother's presence. I want to know what the significance to this room and her mother is.
Well, these donut prisons are like based on actual dreams that I've had while I've been on diets, where of course it's like all you want to do is eat, but you
Mm.
also feel like that's the last thing you should be doing. And so I thought that this like prison of this thing that you also want to eat, like I just thought it was like the perfect metaphor for what it feels like to be
Yeah.
trapped in that way. Um, and so the other thing is that, I hope she wouldn't mind me saying this, but like my mom and I share like very similar issues in terms of like body image, and we gain lots of weight and then we lose lots of weight. And it's like always been so interesting looking at my mom and I and seeing these images, like this sort of like similar pattern that we both went on. And so sometimes, that can feel like you're trapped, like this is just like my genetic destiny to be in this thing. And so I wanted the mom character to almost represent this sort of like inescapable, inevitable, like you are going to be trapped in this forever. And so for me, like that was almost like the mom's voice, like coming through into that world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I was also in a way like reading that as like her mother was super supportive, but like maybe to her it came off as like enablement.
Yes,
Did you feel
exactly.
that too?
I mean, that's exactly right. Yeah, I'm so glad you saw that because
Yeah.
and that's kind of like what I was saying before about like body positivity. It's like sometimes people are like, yeah, just like intuitive eating. It was a something that I tried, and then I intuitively ate a lot
Oh,
of
like with the
donuts. Yeah.
podcast. Like,
Well, it was like a
ching,
book
ching.
I had read, and exactly like the podcast. And so anyway,
I want to talk about something that I noticed that triggered Penelope. Well, there was a few triggers. Penelope, the doppelganger, was triggered by physical closeness a lot.
yeah,
And
that's right.
I'd like to know why that is.
Well, sometimes I think that when you think about disorganized eating or binge eating, like what you're really looking at is like a sense of emptiness or like a void,
Mhm.
And I think that what you're really looking for often is like comfort or just to be like soothed. And so sometimes like also like love or being around other people, it can start to feel like a similar kind of thing. Like you're get it's like she well, on the one hand, she as the character is viewing all people as food, right? I mean, on
Literally.
the most basic level. But then, beyond that, it's like I think people are just so like, they've got like a void that they need to fill. And I
Mhm.
think that that kind of speaks to that.
Wow. And I feel like we're in a real period. Maybe I've just been reading a lot of pieces on this, but there's so much isolation that goes on, and I feel like people almost don't even know how to be close now. And
Right.
that kind
Exactly.
of feeds that ideology too.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny. It's like I imagine that first scene when she's with Josh and they're finally first intimate. It's like been so long for her that before she's been intimate with anyone, it's like going from like 0 to 1,000, and that mixed with like the drug and so I won't give
Yes.
anything away, but yeah.
Yeah. And then Well, yeah, just her seeing her reflection all the time. Also, like, there were just so many triggers, which I guess that kind of can trigger, especially if you're going through body dysmorphia too. It kind of could be like anything is the trigger.
Yeah, I think like yeah, I think that the mirror also yes, I think so. I think it's like that splitting of yourself that happens when you're looking in the mirror, I think is
Mm,
reflected in like the monster coming out in those moments. I think it's like,
like a
you know,
subconscious part of you.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see what what people think about that, but I have, I could go in and explain it more, but I kind of don't want to like explain a little bit too much, but
Right.
yeah. I
Right.
but I think it's yeah, I think it's a cool like I think that when Penelope like how Penelope grows out of Penny, it is a Jekyll and Hyde story. And like you're right to look at those triggers, and I think that there's really cool things that you can find in the film that are quite like hidden, I suppose. Like
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. Especially like anyone who watches, definitely watch the first time for enjoyment and then watch the second time because there's so much that comes out on that second watch. And I mean, you guys spend months and months and months creating a movie and you think about all of these intricate details, but it's so cool to just keep going back and finding those nuggets.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice of you to say.
On the topic of Penelope, she obviously has her flaws, but I don't think that she is the real villain of this movie. So, what's something that you could say about her that kind of shines a light on her?
Well, I think that there are a lot of monsters in horror movies which are driven by like vengeance and sort of like a real like perverse view of the world or something. I think that Penelope, who we call the sort of monster version of Penny, is actually like also a victim, and I think you're right to point that out. She is starving. Like the whole idea of this monster is like the physical manifestation of a binge state. And so really like she has this um unbelievable like burning hunger that propels her to do these terrible things, but I don't think she's innately bad. I think she's as in crisis in a way as Penny is. Like
Mhm.
she's just struggling. And she's also a reflection of society. She's like she is the violence that is put on Penny at the same time. So it's kind of like it has a lot of like learned behavior. I think the creature played just like so beautifully by Melissa Macedo. So we actually had identical twins playing the
Yeah,
same character, which I guess is the opposite of how it happens mostly, right? Usually it's one actor playing playing twin.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And have you worked with them before?
I've done music videos. Yeah, I've done lots of music videos with them before, so I had always had them in mind for the role.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And have you used prosthetics before?
I yes, I have. Yeah. I
Okay.
do quite a few commercials in Los Angeles, so I have used prosthetics, but this took it to a whole other level for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. We
Um,
had some really just beautiful, intricate prosthetics. Like, yeah, some good.
yeah. What's the biggest takeaway that you got from working on Thinestra?
Um, do you mean in like a professional sense, maybe, or like a kind of
Whatever comes to mind. We can even get spiritual. Like you go for it.
like I mean, it has been such a journey and kind of continues to be. It's one of those things where I'm really in love with like making films, and I just want to keep making movies.
Hmm.
And so I think my biggest takeaway from Dinestra is like I poured so much of myself into the film, and I want to continue to find a way to make it like sustainable in my life. I think like um it really it maybe shed a couple years off my lifespan. Just the insanity of the workload of what it took to make the film. But I'm left thinking like I just want to do it again.
Right.
I just want to keep working. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd say that was my biggest takeaway.
The sales rights for the film were acquired.
Yeah.
Is that the right terminology? Okay,
Yeah,
so
sure. Yeah.
where can people find this or when? Do you know that yet?
Well, we do have some exciting news coming up,
Okay.
but we're just starting our festival year.
Yeah.
So we're going to be screening a few more places, which I'm really excited about. And following that, our sales team is going to take it to different distributors.
Hmm.
And hopefully we can get this movie in as many homes in, the US as we possibly can and around the
Yeah.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's amazing. You guys stay tuned. And so I know that you've done a lot of drama in the past, but you are kind of, well, this is a lot of horror and sci-fi and thriller. Is that something that you want to keep charging in that direction?
Yeah, I think what I've noticed about like my style as it's emerged is that it's kind of like mixed genre, I think is like the best way. And I think even like the horror genre itself is kind of widening
Hmm.
and it's a really good like kind of like tent for indie filmmakers to sort of fall under. And you can go in all sorts of different directions inside of horror. And so I want to stay in the horror tent,
Yeah.
but I do want to like explore maybe like a different like subgenre potentially. It's the a different yeah. So different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And I have one more question for you. What can people keep an eye out for from you for the rest of the year?
Well,
If you can
we've got
say.
yeah, we've got some stuff that we can say and some stuff we can't. I'll just say that we've got some really exciting festival news
Mhm.
that I can't wait to see come to fruition. And that like I said, I'm so dedicated to making films. Like I've got already my next project in development. So
Oh,
hopefully we'll
congrats.
have some new films coming out like maybe next year or the year after.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay, so will people hear about this on your Instagram? Do you want to let them know what it
Oh,
is?
sure. Yeah. I'm terrible at that. Yeah, I'm at Nertz, Nertzzz. And you can also follow Thinestra at Thinestra. That's Thinestra. And yeah, keep up to date with all the news.
Nathan, thank you so much for your time. I really hope that so many people can watch this movie. It really is something that you haven't seen before. It's entertaining, it's dark, it's comedic, it pulls at your heartstrings in a lot of different ways. So, thank you for
Uh,
like bringing this project to the world.
oh, thank you so much for watching it. It was just lovely speaking with you.
You too.